welcome back to another video on the channel today. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at PROJEC cars driving the Ford Falcon V8 Supercar around Laguna Seca. A really good combination and a track that I'm pretty decent on. I've had a better result in the Nvidia series on this track, so I thought I'd take the Ford V8 Supercar around the track for a very quick setup and hot lap. This wasn't too much practice, we got a very nice base setup sorted, and we spent about 25-30 minutes having a little hot lap session to see how high up the leaderboard we can get. So going into turn 1, you want to brake just before that tarmac hits on the right, going down into second gear, holding the throttle, just be careful before you put the maximum power down, and just be careful on the back end coming out of the corner, into third gear, into fourth gear, then back down to second gear. You swing it into this corner, try and skim the sand on the right, into third gear on the exit again, rear end squealing about a bit, chucking it into his right hander, flat out in third gear, into fourth gear, just double the power slightly, and then we're heading on into the fast left hander, which you really want to chuck it down through the gears here very late, down into second gear. We slightly miss the apex, but we've got a reasonable exit getting into third gear very nice and early. Going through into fourth gear, and then we're going to go into the blind left where you have to, I use that tree on the, you see that tree there, I use that tree in the distance as a turning in reference for that corner. Going through the gears, and then we have a little lock up here. We miss the apex because of it. You see, we lock up and we have to go to a very tight line into the corner. Would have rather have gone and attacked that corner further from the right hand side, and we maybe lost it 3 or 4 attempts through that mistake. And you can see now going through the left hand in third gear, flat out now, going into fourth gear, and then back down the gears, down into third gear, and then just be careful on the throttle again, back end, that's a little moment there, going into fourth gear, using the first board on the right, the white board as a braking reference, going down into second gear, hard on the power on the exit again, back end again, a little bit of a squeal on the exit of the corner, going over the line, and we're over the line for a 1 minute 22.3, I think that is, and then I think that's actually top of the leaderboard. We'll have a look in a minute. I think that put us rank 1 in the world with this car, but there is definitely a lot of time to be gained on this car still with this setup. I would say you should be able to hit a 21.2 to 5 with this car with running this setup. So we're going to have a quick look at the setup now and going through the basic changes that we made. Okay, so having a little look at the setup, you can see we've gone quite a little bit lower to the default on the tyre pressures, mainly to try and give some rear grip to the rear tyres there, and you didn't really need to run them as high as they were, as they don't overheat on this track too much. Brake pressures 90 on the front. You can run a bit higher, but you will risk locking up a bit more. I would actually probably run 89% if I was doing a race, 88%, something like that. Brake mapping, I upped it to 1. I used to run it on 0 when I was more used to the car, so bear that in mind. You may want to up it slightly if you want a bit more support in the braking zone, or take it off. It might make it a little bit faster if you go down to 0 though. Final drive, I had it on that setting there. It felt about right for this track. Any lower and you'd be maxing out the 6th gear a bit too soon. Radiator, obviously qualifying lap 5%, you could probably go down to 1 or 2% if you were just doing 1 lap in qualifying. In a race you're going to need to up that to at least 15 to 20%, I'd say, if it's of any sort of distance a race. Bump stops, I actually lowered these down quite considerably just to secure the car to the floor a bit more and give it a bit more stability in the braking and everything, because when I was higher settings it just felt a little bit too twitchy, a little bit too reactive on the steering. And you can see a lot of the suspension settings all the way through the setup, you'll notice, are basically lower on the rear just to secure the rear down to the ground. It's something I did with this car when I was racing on the PS4 in the league racing I did on VR Room. I always just tried to secure the rear end down. I used to run reasonably high downforce on the rear and basically just secure the rear end down and just go over consistent setup, and it was easier to drive and it led me to faster times normally. I hit some very nice lap times in that league on Watkins Glen. I think I did a 142.4 on Watkins Glen in the qualifying for that race, and you know, it just drove really well. You can see again a lot of the settings are just basically securing the rear end down a lot more. Camber angles, you can see 2.3 on the front and 1.4 on the rear. You can run lower on the rear or higher. I would probably run at least 1.7 to 1.4, something around that mark what I've got there. Anything lower down to like 0.3, 0.4, you're going to probably risk the rear end coming a bit loose, I think. Rear toe was up slightly to 0.4, and you can see the rear downforce, we ran maximum there. That's how I run this car on pretty much every track. Even Spa, I ran 0-10 and it felt really nice on that. Obviously Spa, you could probably go down to 0.7, 0.8 or something like that, but for a track like Laguna Seca, 0-10 all the way. Weight bias, you might want to go a little bit more to the rear, but I like to put it in the middle. It gives a nice balance to that front end, because we set the suspension very much for grip to the rear. I like to run it in the middle just to give a little bit more weight, an even weight ratio to the car, and it kind of helps out with the handling. Force feedback, I haven't changed anything for this car again. You know, you probably will want to do something, but I don't ever change anything on the force feedback. It's not something I really go into. I just drive it how it is. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope this setup can help you out on this track. Make sure you leave any comments if there's anything you want to know, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Thanks again for watching.